They're off.
No pressure. Go.
Further Faster, the best independently owned outdoor store in the known universe. Whether you're heading out on a climbing, paddling, tramping or running adventure, look no farther than Further Faster for all your gear and expertise needs over the winter. Head over to 57A Buchan Street, Sydenham or Tautahi, Christchurch, or hit them up at furtherfaster.co.nz.
It goes something like further, faster, there in Christchurch. Rocky is hairy and so is Badger. Jules is nice and Jacob is delicious. Go to further, faster now.
Oh, further, faster, there in Christchurch. Rocky is hairy and so is Badger. Jules is nice and Jacob is delicious.
Go to further, faster now.
Dirt Church Radio.
Episode 337 of the Dirt Church Radio Trail and Ultra Marathon podcast. Buddy, how are you?
Good. I had a cool weekend. I went up to Auckland and went to Full Metal Orchestra, just like tuned into my inner bogan and listened to some metal hits. It was cool.
Now, I was bogan adjacent, so grew up in West Auckland, drove a Ford Escort, had like Back in Black by AC/DC on cassette, all that.
On cassette?
On cassette, yeah. Was it symphonic metal or was it, what are we talking here?
Oh, it was, yeah, because it has the Auckland Philharmonic Orchestra, is that right?
Yes.
playing with these awesome singers, and they did a great job.
What were some of the highlights?
I'm a bit of a Metallica fan, to be honest, so I quite liked Metallica. Kerry knew pretty much all the songs. I wasn't quite so au fait with them all. But no, it's just good to get out, eh?
It is good to get out. That is never a truer word was spoken. And we should probably introduce ourselves. For those who don't know, I'm Matt Raymond.
I'm Ellie Pottinger.
And we are missing our mate Andrew McDowell, who is the fifth of Dirt Church Radio. Not sure. But
Person.
Person. We could go with person. Who do we have on the podcast this week, Ellie? Holy moly.
We had the absolutely legendary and honourable gentleman, Sage Canaday.
15 years ago, ultra marathon me is screaming right now. Like, honestly, we both had the chance to, but over the, nearly 7 years of Dirt Church Radio, we've had the chance to get some pretty incredible characters on. But my goodness me, Sage Canaday, someone who has, 3 Speed Goat wins, USATF 100K Trail Championships, Lake Sonoma 50 Mile, Kaiga Trails 50, 2 times Tarawera 100 champion, and now is still kind of relevant and is in the pop culture consciousness. But what an absolute legend of the sport. And we got the opportunity just before Western States. So it's a couple of weeks. We've been a bit consumed with the Western States content. But we got the chance to sit down and talk to him. And I mean, he was really one of the people who made that transition. You don't get an Abbey Hall, you don't get a Caleb Olsen without a Sage Canaday. One of the first people, what's his marathon PB? It's like 2:16, something like that.
No, I was just reading, what was it, 1:04:32 for a half marathon? Like that's,
yeah, that is proper bonkers. But he was one of those people who came into the sport and it sort of sowing the seeds of what we're seeing today, where people are doing Western States in ever decreasing circles. He was at the forefront. So amazing chat and a consummate professional. But look,
Can I add one little bit to that? Because I feel so guilty about this interview because we did it at 5 a.m. and so I was watching Sebastian on the baby monitor rolling closer and closer to the edge of his bed, and then he finally woke up and started crying, and so I had to exit stage left or stage right, and I feel so bad that I missed out on the rest of the interview because I was so looking forward to having a good chat with Sage. So if if you wonder, like, man, Ellie just went quiet.
I'd actually forgotten about that. That's been
Had
sort
you?
of yeah. But I remember, it was one of those ones where we did have to get up particularly early in the morning. But boy, howdy, was it worth it? And look, before we get to Sage Canaday and his greatest run ever, we should probably crack into this.
It's the greatest run ever. It's the greatest run ever.
Greatest Run Ever brought to you by the legends at Squadron. Give their 4-week special coaching trial a go. You can find the link on the website, which is www.dirtchurchradio.com. This is the part of the show where we ask you to write into us and tell us your greatest run ever. It doesn't have to be a race or a mountain summit. It might just be a run around the block, something that's sung to you for some reason. Send them in to us at dirtchurchradio@gmail.com. And this one is from Rachel Willis. Long-time listener here and a big fan of the Greatest Run Ever feature. I love hearing about people's epic runs up mountains along remote trails, fighting bears and their own demons in the wilderness. My greatest run, in scare quotes, that I wanted to share is a bit less epic in scale, but will long live in the memory. To set the scene, my partner and I moved from the UK to Adelaide about 5 years ago amid the turmoil of COVID. Running was a solo and sometimes lonely pursuit. Then I discovered a small but mighty band of women who loved running trails as much as I did. They were the Adelaide edition of Her Trails, a community of awesome women who welcomed me into the fold. Their motto is people over pace. They stay for brekkie after early morning runs. I had found my people. Most Sunday mornings, as the sun creeps over the horizon, you'll see a group of women on a trail in Karuna and Permank country, big smiles on their faces, the power of the trail sisterhood pushing us up the hills, and the promise of a post-run caffeine fix calling us down the other side. This particular day in July saw a group of us setting off in the post-run dawn winter haze to run the Pioneer Women's Trail, a 22-kilometre route from Verdun, a settlement in the hills, to the fringes of the city. It retraces the route of the early European women settlers who walked from the neighbouring Hahndorf down the Adelaide Tantania every week, carrying fruit and veg before returning the same day with a full load of provisions, including 2 bricks each for building, slowly, the new church. Thankfully unburdened by bricks, but with plentiful surprise of snacks, we left the trailhead in suboptimal conditions, driving rain. However, the first few kilometres flew by as we caught up on each other's news and navigated the foggy laneways. Then we hit our first challenge. What was supposed to be a simple creek crossing via a few stepping stones had become, after a solid 24 hours of rain, a foaming torrent of white water. After a quick check of the map, and taking on board the advice of a friendly local to avoid a flooded railway tunnel further ahead on the route, we retreated to the main road to rejoin the trail a couple of kilometres on, where it emerged from the floodwaters. Most of the rest of the route was runnable, which roughly translates as hilly, but not hilly enough to justify walking, and our pace ebbed and flowed, along with the conversation and the snacks consumed. As we wound our way through the Cleland National Park, which led up to the highest point of the route, our voices faded, and all we could hear was the sound of the increasingly laboured breathing and the crunch of our shoes on loosely packed gravel. We finally crested the last big peak and looked across the well, where the distant ocean would have been visible if not for the thick fog and drizzly rain that enveloped the bush around us. It was still cold enough for our breath to form clouds around us, so we didn't hang around for too long. A couple of photos, and we were off. Having decided to leave the Pioneer Trail at this point to chase some waterfalls, we got a bit more than we bargained for, as the stony single-track path had become yet another impromptu creek. We splashed our way down the hill and joined the well-known Urabilla Trail, which we were familiar with from previous Type 2 shenanigans. With the end in sight, we could start to relax, our tired legs bringing us further down and down until we finally could smell the coffee brewing at the cafe that marked the end of our morning's adventure. This run was not about being the fastest or going the furthest. It was never about breaking records or smashing Strava segments. Instead, it was about connection to each other, to bonds of friendship forged on the trails and strengthened through doing hard things together, connection to this beautiful country we'll call home, and connection to ourselves, to the reasons we run, who we are, who we want to be. So here's to full hearts, quiet minds, muddy legs, and heaps of feel-good vibes. Geez, Rachel, that was epic.
That's cool. And that Pioneer Trail sounds amazing. Just so.
What's the one from Wentworth Falls where you go, is it the Northern, I can't remember what it's called.
National Pass?
Yeah, National Pass.
Yeah.
That's another one of those things. It's like the bridal trail going over to Little Tenay where people like walked it in full woolen clothes and these women were carrying bricks back from the church. Like, it was different back then. But I enjoy my shoes, lightweight vest, and modern amenities. But that was nonetheless a greatest run ever. And
cool.
Keep coming in, folks. We love hearing about them. We do send them in to www.dirtchurchradio.com, and you can read them on the website too. Right, so let's get on with our conversation with the mighty Sage Canaday. All the way from Salida Springs, Colorado, we are beyond stoked to have the legendary Sage Canaday with us on Dirt Church Radio. Sage, kia ora and good morning. How are you doing?
Oh, honored to be on. Thank you. Yeah, it's exciting, so thanks for having me on.
No worries. Hey, look, one thing that we've been catching up with lots of our friends and people we know is it's Western States Week. And as someone who's been involved with the sport for such a long time as you have at the high levels of it, is it like Christmas for you? Is it how are the feelings for the week, or is it just like any other normal week?
For me personally, I mean, it's a very exciting week. It's the pinnacle of 100-mile racing in the U.S. I'd say, Western states. It's got the history. It's a lot like people. I do road marathons a lot, 42K, and I tell people for ultra runners in the U.S., it's like the Boston Marathon is for road marathon runners, because it's one of those races that's hard to get into. It's hard to qualify for if you're an elite, but it also has the history and prestige of going back decades and decades and decades, running on this legendary point-to-point course from the ski resort Palisades Tahoe now to Auburn, California, the birthplace of endurance sport in the U.S. Is what they call it. So it always gets such a competitive field on both the men's and women's sides, and a great international field too, which I think is rare for some U.S. races. Sometimes you get into these certain mountain races or certain distance races where it's not as competitive, but Western States is definitely really deep with the competition.
So what's your hot take then, Sage? Who do you reckon is going to take it this year?
And bearing in mind that by the time by the time the listeners hear this, the race will be done. So choose wisely, sir. There's definitely several guys that could win it. I would, if I was a betting man, I'd put money on Killian because he's Killian. Even though I'd say I've done some mountain races or run in the same races as Killian and some mountain running, and I wouldn't say the course favors him. But he's so good. He's, I think his versatility is there, and his training, from what I've seen, is there. So I think I would bet on Killian Jornet to win the race for the men.
Yeah, and the woman? Who do you reckon on the women's side?
It's a very similar thing. I'd say there's lots of different women that could win the race.
Yeah.
I'm going to bet, and usually I said Americans have kind of the home course advantage. A lot of ultra runners in the U.S. are based in California. They could train on the course. But I'm going to go with maybe a lesser-known underdog. She's not lesser known in my book, but Ida Nielsen.
Oh, yeah.
Because she's, I've run in some races with her too, and has amazing versatility. I believe she ran in college in Flagstaff, Arizona at what is that, Arizona NAZ. And she has the range, she has the experience. So yeah, I'd go with her. But lots of women that could win it. It's really hard to call.
Obviously, for a country of 5 million, we've got a little bit of skin in this game with Caitlin Fielder and Dan Jones. So
they could definitely win. I would put money on both of those runners for sure. I wouldn't be surprised if you had some winners, if not both of them.
I guess that's the amazing, incredible thing about it, isn't it? There's a pool of, there's 20 people across the men and the women who could absolutely, on the day, take it out. And that's what makes it so exciting. I wanted to talk to you about Killian because he's been around for a very, very long time. And with the greatest of respect, so have you. And I wanted to. One of the things that I love about Kilian Jornet is about his how he's evolved in the sport. You know, he was Salomon guy for like what felt like ever. And then he sort of branched out and did his own thing with his own company, and he sort of evolved, and his presence has evolved in the sport. But he's maintained these kind of long-term relationships. Now I'm looking behind you. Sorry, this is a long question. I'm looking behind you. There's a Hoka box, behind you. You've had long-term sponsors for a long time. What are the things that you would say to someone who's, say, coming into the sport, when you wanted to sort of emphasize what advantages or what are the things that you need to consider if you're looking for a longer career in the sport?
Oh, that's a tricky one. First of all, I'd say, Kilian definitely started way before me. He was doing Western States when he was like 20 years old. I think that was he's come back and won it, but his first time was during the Unbreakable film era, which I think was that the 2009, 2008 Western States? It was before I started ultra running, but he's actually younger than me. It makes me feel old. I'm turning 40 this year, but he started younger. He is younger. I think he's 36, 37 now. Maybe he's turning 38. I don't know when his birthday is. But yeah, his longevity of winning, especially some of the most iconic mountain races, has really pushed him to being like an icon. And I think with sponsorship or longevity, I mean, if you need financial support, you need gear support. So the sponsorship is really key. And with that, I got lucky with Hoka, just with the timing. I think they were coming to the US. They got acquired by Deckers, bigger brand. They had more resources. They started designing more shoes, more trail shoes besides just the Speed Goat. So I kind of got in at the right time. But there's always new brands emerging, like you said, with Kilian's Normal brand that he started after he left Salomon. He was with Salomon for a really long time, over a decade. And there's new opportunities for newer runners to get into the sport and to have sponsorship at some level, whether it's a nutrition sponsorship, a gear, Coros watch sponsorship, or a shoe sponsorship, shoe and apparel. You could have different companies sponsoring you, what's on your feet versus what you're wearing, or your sunglasses. So I would say try to diversify your portfolio if you're approaching different brands. You have to be more creative now because it's more competitive now. But also building social media and content, whether you're a running coach or you do podcasts or you create Instagram reel videos or scenic videos or shoe reviews. You have to offer something, I feel like, to the brand if you want them to give you support in return, whether it's financial or gear or both, as well as the travel support. And developing relationships with races is really key. But the other thing for longevity, I think, is knowing how to not overtrain and hurt yourself, or making sure you stay healthy long term, because it's demanding on the body. So Kilian does non-impact skimo training. Sometimes he does other forms of mountain climbing, alpinism, but he keeps things fresh even though he's running massively high volume.
So, and what about you, Sage? Like, what's your kind of guide towards longevity? Like, you're still a spring chicken at nearly 40.
I don't know if I feel like it.
What's your plan for keeping in the sport for as long as you can?
I love the sport. I love running. I started when I was 12 with shorter distances, but I guess for me personally, it's more mixing up my motto, any surface, any distance. So I do a lot of shorter races. I've done some of the 100-milers, not very well, but I don't always try to do all the races that I want to do because I want to hold myself back. And I think being patient long-term, giving your body a break, letting your mileage go up and down, your volume, not obsessing all 12 months of the year, really helps with the longevity. So I'd say that, and obviously like sleep and diet and other lifestyle factors. But yeah, just listening to your body, making sure you're not running through injury that could set you back for months and months. But also that mental attitude of looking forward to your run, running different events that interest you, and kind of having a lifelong passion for the sport.
How do you find that as a coach? Like, one of the things that I want to say battle, but it's not the right word, but I find it hard as a coach trying to encourage people to approach racing that way because they want to do all the races. And I totally get it. Like if I could, I'd do all the races as well. So what's your take there?
Yeah, so as you know, people have different personalities, and some people are really competitive, even if it's just competing with themselves. So part of your role as a coach, I feel like, is to hold people back. Some people are, they're so motivated, they want to improve so fast, and you have to tell them to be patient because it's kind of like pacing an ultra race. You can't rush into things when you first start off, or you might go out too fast or injure yourself. So it's definitely a delicate balance because you want to have that fire and that motivation, but at the same time you have to make sure that it's a balanced approach for the individual.
It's funny, isn't it? It's like when you talk about social media, when you talk about reels, when you talk about part of the job of races and the job of brands and marketing and sponsored athletes is to kind of build stoke, isn't it? So you've almost got this dichotomy. You've got a bunch of people who are building stoke to encourage people to engage in these races, to engage in these pursuits. And you've got this group of people who it's their job to do it. So they take a really considered approach with training, nutrition, like you say, picking what race is your A race for. And then you've got this group of amateur people who you'd think would think like that because it's not their job to do it, but they almost have an inverse approach. They want to do everything. They're cramming training, trying to cram, over 10 hours of training a week into a 40-hour week. It's a funny. I think that's a very important message. It gets lost. That thing of just sometimes it's okay to slow down. And how, yeah. Do you find that a lot with your clients? Is it something that you discuss with them? Like, have you ever had the thing to say, "Hey, slow down"?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's always a double-edged sword, especially with social media, like you said, because people see these glamorized reels, but it's out of context. It's like a quick highlight of, oh, I did this massive training run, or I did this massive training week, or I'm going to do all these races, and it's great for, like you said, building the stoke and excitement and getting people motivated. But at the same time, it's not a full picture of what happens in real life and reality. So you don't see the behind the scenes things outside of the social media. And so it's like I said, it's a delicate balance. You definitely have to balance the individual's needs and time and health. But I think what keeps me grounded, especially with being a coach at Higher Running, is that we coach a lot of road athletes. We coach a lot of beginners. So people training for their first 5K or their first half marathon. But then on the same side, we also train people training for ultramarathon, 100-milers. And some people like to do both. So they do road marathons and ultra trail. And I think that balance helps put things in perspective, coaching beginners, coaching advanced runners all in one, because you see, where people are at and you can meet them there, or try to at least.
What's crazy to me, and again, this comes back to that sort of your longevity in the sport. Like you said, you and for those, you came into the sport as kind of one of those first wave of fast road guys transitioning into trail, but how now marathons are being sort of branded as sub-ultra. That's mad, eh? That's really crazy how these races that were like, there was these races for, hundreds of years, and now they're being branded as sort of sub-ultra. That's interesting way that the sport's going, eh?
Oh yeah, it's a shift in mindset for sure.
Talking about social media, like in the last year, I think you probably had a bit of a tough time of it with the Spring Energy, I'm going to say scandal, and then with a relatively high-profile coach kind of putting your name out there quite a bit as if you're manufacturing the gel yourself. Can you give us some clarity, some words around what happened there?
Yeah, so first of all, I was with Spring Energy for a long time. They helped. I met the CEO and owner, Rafal, at the Western States training camp in I think it's 2016, when I first got a golden ticket for Western States. I went to the training camp in May, and I met this met Rafal on the course, and he talked to me about Spring Energy, gave me some samples. It sounded like a good idea. I was looking for a gel sponsorship at the time, and he said we could develop a custom flavor called the Canaberry, which is a strawberry-based flavor. And I said, great, but my only involvement in the Canaberry, besides marketing it heavily for the last 6 or 7 years before last year, was that I did taste testing. So he would send me these sample packs and say, well, it's 100 calories. This is what it tastes like. And I'd be like, add more maple syrup, make it sweeter, or add more strawberry, make it taste more like strawberry. So it's not like I was involved in the chemical equations or the, measuring the ingredients or the proportions or knowing what the nutrition facts really were. But at 100 calories, 25 grams of carbs for a gel, it actually had a couple grams of fat in it. So, because it had coconut, some coconut, not milk, but I actually forgot what was the ingredients. It had some coconut that added a couple grams of fat. So then you're getting a little more calories. So 100 calories per gel packet seemed reasonable to me. It wasn't like the Awesome Sauce, which they said was 180 calories, which we found out was both of these ended up being short after there was third-party testing last year. But I had no idea. And so I was taking these gels during races for the last 6 years before this, and I thought I was taking more than what I probably was. So it was kind of upsetting to me, but I defended them till the very end because I'm loyal to my sponsors. I believed in the product, and I really thought the Canaberry would be 100 calories a pack, and the third-party test showed it was probably a lot less than that. I'm not sure exactly what the numbers were. I think some said 60, 65 calories. So like almost, a significantly less energy than you thought you were getting. And the Awesome Sauce was even worse off. So after that, after all the third-party data tests were released, I decided to cut ties with Spring Energy. I was mid-contract in the year, and they were understanding with that. They said, okay, that's fine. That's understandable. A lot of athletes did leave. Some stayed on, but I just couldn't keep promoting them just because of that really critical mistake. And so, I don't really know the details. I'm just an athlete. I just help market products online. I wasn't the engineer or scientist behind what goes on in the Kitchener lab for them. So I honestly don't know what was going on, but I do want to apologize to people for accidentally misleading them and defending them till the very end, because it was quite upsetting for a lot of people there, especially with the social media buzz. But I guess I'm glad the truth got out.
And there is quite talking about social media buzz. Like I've seen coaches in the past few days kind of slating what David Roche has been doing with heat training. Like how does it feel when you see stuff like that in the coaching space?
It's tricky because I'd say I haven't followed exactly what he promoted. I obviously know David and have seen the social media. I'd say, with the heat training protocols or even like how many carbs an hour you take, it could be very individual. And I think the dangerous thing with social media is that people make these quick highlight reels, or these brands want to promote these highlight reels, and it just, you miss the context of things. So you don't get the full picture. I've always struggled with it with, introducing running form concepts or different training concepts. Like people will always, come up with a different argument against it. And sometimes they're right. And it doesn't have to be another running coach. It could just be another fan of the sport or another ultra runner that's had personal experience. And you can't say that they're wrong. You can't totally deny or shut off the criticisms because they are valid sometimes, but there's a lot of things lost in the online ether, lost in the abyss, or misinformation too that gets out. So it's like I said, it's a delicate balance, and it's hard to you can't always be right. So I look at the criticisms differently now, especially after the Spring Energy fiasco.
Yeah, I think the word fiasco, social media buzz is probably putting too gentle a sheen on it. And it's disappointing in some ways, isn't it? And certainly, Sage, this wasn't a sort of a, you must come on and mea culpa. Where I go automatically, and you think about us as human beings and just how, so you think about running form, and then you think about Emil Zatopek, right? Now, if you were to say, because there's this whole thing now, right? You've got and you've got coaches like yourself and coaches and people like Chris McDougall and oh gosh, what's his name? He's lovely. He lives in he's the running guy behind the Chris McDougall, Eric.
Oh no.
Lives in Jackson Hole. Sorry, it's too early in the morning for this.
Oh yeah, I think I know who you're talking about.
You know, Coach Eric from Born to Run.
Yeah,
that guy. The and the whole barefoot running thing, which I'm sure there's 1,000 physiotherapists with plaques on their wall saying thank you. But for as many physiotherapists as there's plaques on the wall, there's people who that's revolutionized their life. It's funny, isn't it? We've moved into this it's really didactic. You're either here or you're here. You either do this or you do this, and it's not to sound like an old fuddy-duddy, but I am feeling a bit like that way. It's like, man, social media, it's like you can have both things, right? You can actually, it's like you've got was it a Telecaster in the background?
It's just Stratocaster, yeah.
So it's a Strat in the background. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
You're allowed to like Strats. You're also allowed to like SGs, right? Like you don't have to play a Strat for the rest of your life. It does my head in, actually. How do you, since you kind of got, and you did, you got after it in the digital space. Has it changed your relationship with social media?
It's evolved with the different platforms and the different styles of videos. So my big thing was starting my YouTube channel when I was in university, right when YouTube was starting off, and I started making funny running videos to share with my friends because uploading on Facebook was too hard back then for videos. So I had these low quality YouTube videos in 2006, 2007, and then running post-collegiate at Hanson's Brooks with like Des Linden, getting second at the Boston Marathon. I was filming road running workouts and promoting Brooks shoes, and then I was sponsored by Scott Shoes. Last 11 years with Hoka. The dynamics changed with Instagram, short reel content, vertical video, TikTok, similar style. But then also, just, going in with music trends or even like funny videos. I always like to do some comedy, but I'm also like a serious running coach, and that's kind of not always compatible maybe, but I just do videos that I like to do. Whether or not they get as many views now, it's hard because you're competing against everyone else posting everything. Anyone with a smartphone could upload a nice video or a good video quality and put it up on Instagram really fast. So it's a lot of good information gets lost. A lot of bad information gets pushed to the top. So it's frustrating at times, but it's also inevitable. Like there's always an evolution in the sport with different cultures, younger Generation Z runners coming in their 20s now. It's harder to relate to people outside of your age cohort kind of, but it's the same thing with the older ultra runners, people in their 60s and 70s who are crushing it, and they look back on the sport and they say it's changed a lot, not just with social media, but with the culture, with the shoes, the products, the attitudes. So I try to embrace that and evolve with the changing times, but it's definitely hard at times, and there's always something new with social media, so it's always changing.
And what about, and sort of where I was going with that was, what about your own sort of relationship to it? Because it can't, I mean, you, obviously you're a professional and you don't make it in the sport without a degree of sort of self-assurance and a sort of righteousness of purpose, I guess. But how do you, is it hard, like, okay, here we go another day on the socials, what are the comment section going to be saying, or do you ignore it completely?
It's encouraging to me personally for selfish reasons. Actually, it's I call it shameless self-promotion, but sometimes it's shameless product plugs for sponsors. I look forward to it because I think the good things about social media is they help connect us worldwide. Got people listening to the podcast all around the world. We have people at different time zones on Instagram sharing beautiful mountain scenery or trail scenery in the forest, and I think it's great that way. So I look forward to opening up my social media, even though I see it as a job too. So, and the biggest evolution I've had in the last couple years, I'm turning 40 this year, so I'm getting older, and I feel like
welcome aboard.
Yeah, it's hard to compete against, the marathon time. I ran my best marathon when I was 25, and I realized I'm never going to touch that again, probably. And that's kind of a hard pill to swallow, but it's inevitable that we get older and we slow down eventually, whether it's age 40 or 50 or 60. I don't know. Maybe some people start when they're 60 and they improve till they're 70, but not me. I burned it hot in my 20s and early 30s. So there's that, but there's also my health issue. I had a bilateral pulmonary embolism 4 years ago, which did a number on my lungs. It destroyed part of my lung function, and that significantly has slowed me down. So I think in the terms of building a career, being on social media, being an athlete, I've had to shift more towards thinking I'm more of an influencer rather than a pro athlete, because there's an overlap at some degree. If you have a big social media following and you're promoting products online, you're a pro athlete if you're running fast and making podiums, but you're also kind of an influencer because you're selling products. And influencer gets a bad rap with a lot of people in the US because they just think of fakeness and people just selling products, and they're not fast runners necessarily, but they could be coaches. They could have something to offer. They could do product reviews. So in my mind, it's all one big overlap. And I've seen that shift happen, especially as I slow down in my own career.
Influencer is very much a pejorative word, isn't it? It is. It is, but I mean, I guess even stepping outside of that social media, the vertical video 30 seconds, your brand influences people, your style of coaching influences people. But I do understand that it's taken on a life of its own. You've had significant challenge over the last few years. I mean, not only did you have the pulmonary embolism, your house burnt down. How do you work through that?
It's been hard, honestly. But I think, I was lucky throughout most of my earlier life. I had a great childhood. My parents were very supportive of my running. I had everything handed to me on a silver platter. Like, I was spoiled. We were never in big financial stress. We weren't. My parents weren't super wealthy either, but very middle class, average American type of upbringing. Except my parents were above average support, so I was lucky in that regard. I was lucky getting sponsored right after university, track running. So I really can't complain. And I think the biggest perspective I've had now is that, at some point in our lives, we face some sort of adversity, and some people face much more worse adversity. Some people have traumatic childhood. Some people have, it could be an accident, a substance abuse problem. There's much more suffering and traumatic events that happen across the world to people, and none of us are going to go through life unscathed. There's always going to be something, and hopefully it's minor. But for some people, I know it's a lot harder. And so, from my perspective, it was a minor little speed bump. It wasn't too bad. The apartment was just material items. We had some insurance. It covered most of it. We still had to pay a lot of money. It was a financial strain. And then the hospital bills actually in the U.S. were also quite a financial strain. But we got through it. And it still bothers me that my lungs hurt a bit more when I run, and my VO2 max dropped a lot. But I also think that was going to happen anyway as I get closer to 40 compared to my 20s and 30s. So it puts it all in perspective. It makes me more appreciative of life in general, but also still just being able to run. But I think I could relate more to people that have had some struggles, maybe whether it's a minor injury or just, something outside of running that's put stress on their life.
It's that thing, isn't it? We talk so much in this space about running being a challenge, and it is very much within a boundary of safety, isn't it? Like, yes, this is going to hurt. You're going to feel like you are perhaps dying. You're going to perceive this as this, but you're not going to really. That bell curve, it's very, very small. But I have a friend who went through a very similar couple of health challenges, and he said, at one point he was lying on the floor of the hospital with like a crash team over him, and he said, and to this day, as scary as that was, it was better than the alternative, which is not being here. So that must give you, like, you're off for a run this afternoon, aren't you? After that perspective must be really freeing in some ways, hey?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, thankful to still be here and to still be running, and yeah, still being able to train at a pretty high level actually. So, my sponsors supported me a lot through that, and the community supported me a lot through that. So that definitely helped a lot, because a lot of people don't have that big of a network of support necessarily. So I'm thankful for that.
Do you find that people struggle? I mean, I'm so interested with the sponsorship thing because, again, we think about the influencer culture and everything is just immediate, like couch to 200 mile, and then you're gonna get, a contract with a shoe company or whatever. Like you've been with Hoka for, like you said, 11 years. That's an incredibly long time. Is it what do you think sort of, given that we sort of touched on it earlier, but is it just what makes for such a long-term consistent relationship?
Gosh, that's a good question. I think I got lucky with the timing. When Hoka was introducing, especially the US based trail running team, right in 2013, 2014, I was able to jump right on that. It was kind of when I really started trying to go out after competitive races. So I was doing, going against guys like Killian. I always finished behind him, but I finished a close
so
second.
So does everyone. That's okay.
Yeah. I saw him get beat actually at some races, but I would be like a place or two behind him, and I'd watch him go off and beat me. But that helped diversifying your social media. So trying to be active on all platforms, not just one thing. It could be a weakness too, though, because some people really hit it off on YouTube and then their Instagram's not as big, or vice versa. So I don't have all the answers. I don't know, but I do like to be loyal to my sponsors. So I don't look for other quick deals necessarily because Hoka's been so good to me. So I think that helped, and just the support of the marketing team. I've worked with a lot of different people over the decade. The timing, and then consistently creating value for the brand, whether it's not just, posting shoe reviews or shoe product pushing on social media, but just being a coach or working in other capacities through marketing and leading group runs or activation events, and having a presence at like the Boston Marathon, which I did this year, but also the Tarawera 100K or some other race that's outside the U.S. Because it's a great running community, and yeah, I like to be part of it.
I have, again, as you finished behind Killian, I have finished behind you a couple of times, far behind. But when I've seen, and there's been a couple of occasions where you've, on out and bit, like Tarawera all those years ago, and you came flying back, and you were running with Kerry Suter actually, and he was pacing you out. And me and my friend were running up the hill, and you guys came flying down. And one of the things that struck me is you said hello to both of us, and you said hello to everyone coming down the hill. Now, you had license not to do that, right? You're concentrating. I shudder to think how fast you were running at the time. Is that something that, you seem like a very kind of genial, but also it's a very professional approach. You are saying, hello, I'm going to welcome my fellow athletes. Is that an approach you've always had, or is that something you've worked on over time?
I think I've always had it, because there's been some out and back courses where I like to cheer people on. Like in the U.S., there's a race called the Lake Sonoma 50 miler, which is a big out and back. And at Tarawera, this must have been 2014 Tarawera.
Yeah,
it was the rain year. Yeah, it was 80K or so course, but we had that big out and back. And yeah, Kerry was pacing me the last, 25K or whatever the pacers were allowed to pace you in. And it was muddy. We're coming through the hilly section, through the forest. And yeah, I know everyone's out there struggling, and it's a uplifting thing to try to encourage everyone else on. And I don't see, whether you're leading the race or you're, whatever place you are, it's all the same. We're all struggling and all trying to encourage each other on. So I try to do it as best I can. Sometimes I'm too out of breath to muster it up, or I might miss someone, I'm afraid, because I'm looking down at my feet, trying not to slip or trip on a tree root. But it's I don't want to be rude, and I don't want to, I don't think, elites don't have this like special right to like just plow people out of the way. So it's all about recognizing everyone's struggle and challenges and courage to toe the starting line of an ultra, and trying to celebrate that.
It's awesome. And, like it's one of those things that it and back then, starting out thinking about that was impactful, like I was like, oh, okay, this is what this culture of the sport is. That was super cool. So it's nice to, inside all that kind of, I guess that, that elite mindset and everything, that you cannot be a dick about things. It's quite nice. And speaking of Kerry, Ellie's had to dash off just quickly to subdue Sebastian, their young son, not subdue, to tend to Sebastian, who's woken up. But this is a question from Kerry, and I don't understand this at all, but I'm just going to read it off the page. What happened to your war on quartz?
Oh, quartz. Oh, so quartz was if people don't know, I don't know if it was an acronym, but it stood for, it was the anti-doping. Well, they didn't even call it anti-doping. They called it athlete monitoring health program for elites, mainly in what originally started as the Golden Trail Series. I think it was around in Europe, I think based in France, even before the Golden Trail Series mountain races kicked off. But they were doing preliminary blood draws at like UTMB. Even when I first towed the line at UTMB 2015, I did the Golden Trail Series twice, the International Golden Trail Series, which is mainly sub-ultra, marathon, shorter mountain races like Zagama, Sierra Zinal. And I made the top 10 in the international field there in 2018 and 2019. And Quartz was involved, especially that first year, with making us take blood tests. But it was something that I called out on social media quite a bit because I'm very for clean sport, and I think there's been some doping problems, or there definitely have been at UTMB. But I said it wasn't going to be accurate as a drug testing program because it was more just random blood draws, and they would not wear gloves, and there'd be blood splattered all over, and it was not a surprise test for elites. So I always felt like it was this Band-Aid for something you really needed stitches or a bigger wound cover on. And I think they did away with it actually now, because for UTMB and like Western States coming up, they're going to bring in world anti-doping standards or world athletic standards for actual testing, at least after the race. So I think that's more transparent and more honest, because it's actual performance-enhancing drug testing versus just random blood draws that didn't seem to be doing the job.
Look, I work in healthcare, and I mean, trying to get a drug level out of a blood draw, and you're right. We were at a, Ali and I were at Ultra Trail Australia, which was a world major, and they had the anti-doping people. Now, they are like ninjas, right? Like everything is, you didn't see them, you didn't see what was happening. They are so dialed in, not secretive, but I guess they have very low profile and very, very controlled. Hey, if you just, like you say, if you're ripping around without gloves on, taking bloods and then saying this is a clean sample, it's pretty, like you say, that's pretty, it's a Band-Aid when you need stitches, right? If you could plausibly deny something like, no, the clenbuterol in my blood was from that beef sandwich that I ate. Who said that? There was a famous cyclist, wasn't it? He said,
yeah.
Do you remember that?
Shelby Houlihan, the track runner in the U.S., had the burrito, the beef burrito, or no, pork. She said it was we call it burrito gate, actually, because she had levels of some steroid, and yeah.
Do you find it funny? I mean, you held up your beautiful chorus watch there before. Do you find it funny that people, like there's discussions around, records, and there's discussions around people attempting these massive things. What do you think drives people to kind of cheat or cook the books in an era like in the 80s? You could absolutely get in a camper van and drive across drive across a continent and say that you did the race. But now when you can dial it into individual stride length, what do you think possesses people in this day and age to cheat? Why do people do it?
Yeah, so the way I see cheating, I've been very against illegal performance-enhancing drugs, but there's other ways to cheat. You could cut the Boston Marathon course, take the subway, take a car if you're doing a across the country run, right? FKT, you could cheat. You could cut the switchbacks on FKT, right? I always say, and even for the people taking drugs or cutting the course physically or cheating with data manipulation or a motor in your bike, right? Is that it could be driven by financial motives. There's definitely, like, I think for a lot of, we'll say, someone coming from poverty, say you have a East African runner that's running from poverty, they're trying to feed their family, they might get tricked by an agent or coach into taking an illegal drug that they don't even know about, and they don't even know the rules. They just want to win a race and make money. And for them, it's a lot less, I feel sorry for them compared to the super wealthy athlete that has all the bells and whistles, that knows they're taking EPO and performance enhancing drugs and is cheating and gaming the system for big money, right? So I think there could be a financial motive, but I think if you're sponsored already, you're a top level athlete, and money is not the driving factor, I think it goes back to ego. And so even for these unsponsored runners, even for a mid pack runner, you just want to beat your neighbor. You want to beat your buds in the running clubs. So like, it would be easy for people who want attention, or they have an ego, or maybe they have a fragile ego, to artificially inflate your results some way. So I think it's driven by a psychological component. For me, it's a ethical boundary. I don't mean to be up on my high horse, but like, I got into running to challenge myself, and I feel like I'd be cheating myself if I cut the course. So like, it's not even a thing I would consider, because I don't want to cheat others, but cheating myself is the worst. So, what's it worth comparing to if you're cutting the course and trying to beat your previous time when you didn't run the full distance?
Yeah, you got to live with yourself at 3 a.m, don't you? We have a friend. His name's John Anate. He's a medical doctor. Shout out to John. He's a medical doctor, and he came over and did some runs with us down here. He went and did, I think, more to Tapu, and he was talking about the rise of, and it was around that time of the Icarus stuff. He was talking about the rise of concierge medicine and how it's like dudes like me who are like mid-pack masters runners, or in the cycling world, they say, well, I could spend this much on a pair of carbon rims, or I could spend this much on a course of EPO, and what would affect my... It blows me away. And again, not to get on an ethical high horse, but it does seem somewhat self-defeating. But maybe it's congruent to their value set. I don't know. Yeah.
I think it's an individual thing, but there could be social media pressure, I guess, now with like trying to get notice or sponsorship or competing at the high level. But like you said, even anyone at any level could be doing something.
But I mean, surely that's diminishing returns. Like you said, like the big, like if you're going to crack it, right? Like if you're going to crack, there's sponsors, there's ambassadorship, and then there's sponsorship, right? If you're going to crack a legit pro contract, I wonder if people have this sort of inflated idea of what that's going to mean versus like, I'm going to get an ambassadorship where I get product or shoes or whatever it is, and I repay in kind with my time. I don't know, maybe maybe it's a thing of, like you said, that the thing that strikes me about your relationships is they're consistent, time-based, long-term, and that they have peaks and troughs, but they're ongoing, this kind of, I don't know, maybe I'm just old. Maybe I'm just an old guy.
Oh, no, I could relate to that.
Hey, speaking of long-term relationships, Sandy Nypaver, not a slouch herself. I mean, you've both come up through the sport. What's it been like, sort of, having a partner in crime, partner in life who is also, running to an incredibly high level? What's that like?
Oh, it's really good because you could relate to what each other is going through almost exactly. So we try not to pick the same races sometimes. We might be doing some of the same races this year, but it's good to help crew for her. Like she did the Run Rabbit Run 100 miler in Steamboat Springs last year and finished in the prize money, which is good. But yeah, just being able to support someone who's also running at a high level makes it easier because everything's streamlined. Like, oh, you had a long run today, you're tired. We don't have a ton of responsibilities, so we're lucky in that regard. And she actually helps support. She coaches a lot through our coaching business, Higher Running. So she's really the number one coach. She works full time basically as a running coach for Higher Running. So she really supports that brand, which helps a lot. But yeah, she's sponsored. She has a Topo shoe sponsorship that she works with and does social media from time to time. She always says it's harder to create videos because she's coaching so much, but I think part of that's a personality thing. But no, it's been great, and Sandy's been running strong. She also had some, she had Achilles tendon surgery years ago. She's had some ups and downs too, but she's been training hard and has big goals.
That's awesome. And do you guys, in terms of, that must be hard for, and not to speak for her, that must be hard for her to watch, like when the whole kind of, suddenly, your partner's a bloody meme on your boy Scott Jurek or whatever it is. That must be, did she want to go kick some ass, or was she a bit more kind of like, dude, it's social media, just ignore it?
She'll defend, she's very defensive and she'll be outspoken for any sort of cause or injustice she sees in the sport, especially with like, helping promote more women in ultra trail running has been a passionate thing. Obviously we're both plant-based too, so that's comes through as a passionate nutritional choice or dietary thing. But no, she has a good balanced approach. I'd say she helps me cool down if I get amped up, if someone said something that rubbed me the wrong way. So I think that's a good balance to have. She has a good perspective because it's easy to get a distorted perspective if you're in a certain space on the internet or in ultra running even. She could pull the reins back. She's helped also guide my training too, because I'll forget to do something. I always coach myself, so it's a bias, a self-bias that you get wrapped up in not running enough or running too much, running too hard, racing too much. She's like, that's crazy, don't do it. Trying to do any service, any distance all the time. You need to take a step back.
Any distance or any time sounds like a really great kind of way to live. And what's your favorite, like if you had to choose, what would be your favorite kind of surface and distance?
Ooh, definitely not 100 milers. I've struggled in the longer races. So I think my best distances have been more between 50K to 80K. And I think some of my best, I'd say 50K maybe. A 50K mountain race like the Speed Goat 50K outside of Salt Lake City here in Utah has been a race that's treated me well, and it just seems to flow with my natural abilities. Because I've suffered greatly when I try running over 100K, 100 milers. They've faded pretty hard, and I want to do well in longer races, but I'm not sure if those are my best events. So 50K in the mountains has been a sweet spot traditionally for me. I didn't choose it necessarily, but I do like it. Yeah.
And what about track reps or hill reps?
Oh, now after my breathing issues, I'd say track reps, because there's something about running flat and fast that's very satisfying. And when I was training for the Boston Marathon this spring, it felt good to be back on the track. But I used to always see myself as a climber, like uphill was like my jam. Now it feels like I'm just breathing harder, so I don't like it as much, but I still do uphill reps, obviously, for the musculature. But yeah, you can make anything hard if you run fast enough.
That's very true. And I guess living at 2,000 meters is gonna put some extra pressure on the pipes because there's not as much oxygen. What was it like jumping back into Boston? Like going from, like you said, like I love a 50K in the mountains. That's different from Boston. How's it dealing with the crush, the people, all of that?
It was refreshing. Like I said, my motto is any service, any distance. We coach a lot of road runners who do shorter events, 5K, half marathon. So it's a different scene from the trail ultra. I definitely love trail ultra running, and I'm probably going to be more competitive at the longer, less intense distances. But Boston's it's humbling because it puts things in perspective. All these runners going, faster 3-minute kilometer pace, and it's refreshing coming from ultras because it feels like it's over like that. You're like, well, it's. For me, it was less than a 2.5 hour race. So it's easy to figure out your gels. I'm like, okay, I'm going to have, 4 or 5 gels. Like, then that's it. And then you don't have to worry about gel fatigue because I could slurp down 4 or 5 Martin gels, or I took my bicarb before the race. They handed out Martin gels. I'm not sponsored by any nutrition company, but Martin was the sponsor of Boston Marathon. So they're handing out these gels. But I had some SIS gels too. So I had plenty of carbs and a sip Gatorade. And it's simple. There's no drop bag. There's no change of clothes. There's no solid food that I'm eating to worry about. It was mainly just blast for a little over 2 hours, and the course is done, and there's a lot of people cheering for you. So it's high octane, and it's good. And it went pretty well, so I was happy.
What did you do? What was your time?
I ran 2:26 at Boston this year, and we had good weather too, so that helps.
That's amazing, and yet at the same time, isn't it? You reflected on that. What's your PR? Is it 2:12?
2:16. 2:16:52. Yeah, when I was 25. So
there we go. That's again. That's like you say. Everyone slows down, and it's absolutely there's people who would bite their own arm off for a 2:26 marathon finish, right? And it's that thing about you kind of getting that right in your head that's not a 2:16, but still, I mean, incredible. On food, are you a guy and stepping away from whatever kind of the gel? Are you in the longer races, you're plant-based, are you mixing it up? Are you taking gels? Are you taking a variety of food? Or do you kind of just stick with getting in the carbs any way you can?
Honestly, the nutrition's been a ongoing process. It's evolved with the different products. It's evolved with maybe how your stomach feels as you age. But I actually tried some 24-hour races too over the past 6 months. So I was trying to make the World 24-Hour Team, which is a flat track, 24-hour, how far you could run. And so I did it on a paved track, a tarmac. Well, it was like a 1,600-meter loop in November. Failed epically. I only made it 12 hours. I was throwing up. I had stomach issues, dehydration issues. And then I tried again on a 400-meter track 3 weeks after Boston, the Desert Solstice it was called. Not Desert Solstice, I forget the name of the race now. It was such a traumatic event. I made it through 100 miles in like 15 hours, and then I had stomach issues. So for me, it's like being a new ultra runner again, going back to the drawing board. What's going to work after 10 hours or 12 hours? And I think you find, and a lot of 100-milers have found this, maybe you too, is that you do need to change it up with solid food, real food sometimes. It could be potato chips or crisps. It could be a tortilla. It could be bread. It could be soup, noodles, pasta. But at some point, I get flavor fatigue, I'd say, to like a sweet gel. So I have to change it up. But it's still trying to figure that out with the sodium balance and what your stomach can handle, because you don't want to get sick.
It's refreshing to hear that. It is. And not to revel in the fact that your body said a hard no. It's interesting, isn't it? Like it doesn't matter if you are at which end of the bell curve that you sit in terms of ability with running. The body is the body, and some days, like you'd think that on balance that you would absolutely knock that out of the park in terms of just getting after it and knowing what to put in, but you on a 400-meter track surface, your body said, "No, I'm not doing this." What do you think that's about? Is it just the fact that you're on a consistent surface and consistent motion for so long, or is it your speed? Or
Definitely. Yeah. I think what I learned from these two 24-hour attempts on flat tracks is that your mindset has to be totally different than if you were doing a fixed distance race, like 100-miler. Because, on the trails, everything's changing. You're changing pace. You're changing with the hills, the terrain. You have different aid stations to look forward to. You're also carrying a big pack where you have to be self-reliant on how much you eat and drink between aid stations or you'll run out. So I think those constraints change the mentality of it. The pace changes. Whereas on the flat track, it was almost too easy. Every 400 meters, I'd see Sandy and my crew, and I'd be like, I need a drink. I'm very thirsty now. But on the trails, that wouldn't happen because you're carrying your hydration. So I think I messed up my hydration mainly. I tried to overhydrate too early because it was too convenient. And, if I'm drinking, I was trying to force a liter an hour, which I think was too much for me. Because it's still relatively low intensity. It wasn't super hot. And my stomach started sloshing after 6 or 7 hours. And in hindsight, at the time, I thought it was a great idea. But when I look back on it, I think a lot of the stomach issues happen because of overhydration or dehydration. And you get that sloshing. And then once you start getting sick, I don't bounce back from that very well. And on a track race, you don't want to be stopping at the aid stations like you would in a trail ultra because you want to keep moving fast because it's flat. And I think that dynamic, it's a totally different mindset. But I'm still learning. I've still suffered greatly in 100-milers like UTMB and had to drop out early, not finish. I've marched it into the finish, Western States. I was throwing up all over for the last 40K, but I got it done. So yeah, you learn something from every race, and I think it changes. It might change as you get older too, but there's new products to experiment with. So I'm always experimenting.
One final question, I want to lead you on to the last that will land the plane. But the race du jour, the distance or the format that is hottest at the moment, and when we're talking, it's Dead Cow Gully is happening in Australia. Have you ever thought about giving a backyard a go?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's an exciting format because, like I said, it changes the mindset again. And I don't know because I've never started a backyard ultra. But after doing these 24-hour fixed time events where there's no finish line, the more you suffer, the more you keep in the race, the longer you have to go. And I think that mindset shift is also similar in a backyard because it's about going as far as you can, but there's still this time constraint. But the appeal to the backyard ultra for me is that if you run faster, you also have more of a rest break in between starting your next lap. So that mindset is more like trail running, where I think you run up and down these mountains, you have a big aid station. If you made up a gap on someone, you could relax more, eat solid food. On the track, I was just rushed all the time. I felt like I couldn't do that. But I think in the backyard, if you run a little faster, you have that many more minutes to take a nap when sleep deprivation comes in. And I've never done a race over 30 hours, so I can't imagine what the sleep deprivation or the nap strategy is with that, because they say a lot of coaches will say after 30 hours is when the sleep starts becoming a big issue. I can't speak on that yet, but I do want to experience one. It's exciting.
Yeah. and I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? Like that's something that really interests me. If you look at, there'll be two runners and say they'll be at 16 hours, which is 100 kilometers or 109 or whatever it is. And then you look at the cumulative, how much time they've spent on their feet, and you can have two runners, same race, same starting on the hour, and one's run maybe 2 hours longer, 4 hours longer than the other because of and there's different strategies as well. It's an incredibly interesting sport. Hey, look, Sage, you've been so generous with your time with us. Ali does give her apologies. She had to go, and the toddler woke up on the wrong side of the bed, I think it would be fair to say. So she does give her apologies. But I wanted to ask you the same question we ask every person who comes on Dirt Church Radio, and that's Sage Canaday. What's been your greatest run ever?
I'd have to say this is a long time ago, 2014, we had this race it was sponsored by the North Face, but it was called the Endurance Challenge in San Francisco. And it was in the hills of Marin Headlands. It was before they made you run across the Golden Gate Bridge at the end. So we were more in the hills, single track trails, beautiful redwood forests, kind of like Tarawera actually. You have redwood forests there in California, and it was a big prize money race, $10,000 USD for the win. I had been there the first year. I got lost and dropped out in 2012. The second year, I was in prime shape. Dakota Jones and I both got the flu. I didn't start the race. So 2014, I go in. I was like, I got to try to win this prize money and do well. It's my first big year with Hoka, and it's in December. So everyone in the U.S. who had done Western States or all these competitive races would go in it. So, you got Rob Carr, Dakota Jones, Mike Aish was in it, Max King, Zach Miller.
The golden age of ultra
some of the European Solomon guys, not Killian, but the year before Francois Dane had done it. Miguel Heras, I think, was the Solomon guy. Then Alex Barner, Dylan Bowman. So all these guys, and it was a super muddy year. It had rained. They changed the course slightly. I think it was just under 80K, 48 miles, and it was just a mud fest. And I went out and I tried to blow up in the race in the first third. And I was drinking Coke and I got sick to my stomach. I started throwing up all over. And I had maybe a 5-minute lead on Dakota Jones, and he caught me and passed me. And we had 16K to go. And I thought my race was done. I was going to start walking. I felt so bad. And for some reason, I was able to puke and rally. And I ran up the Muir Beach Hill and closed on Dakota, passed him at the last aid station with like 8K to go. He was like 10 seconds behind me, and I just grabbed a bottle from my parents and just started running as hard as I could and was able to open up a gap. I think I was running 320 kilometer pace on the final downhill and through the mud, and I was able to win that race, get the prize money, and it was a big race because, we had Western States champs like Rob Carr, Timothy Olson, Zach Miller was coming off the world champs, and to win that was the best executed race I've done, but also it was painful because I had stomach issues and didn't think I could do it, and I did it, but that was rare.
Wow. Wow, what a time. I mean, and I guess that's the thing, is that we kind of date ourselves with our cultural touch points, but that's sort of when I grew up, as it were, like being, thinking about those athletes and everything. So what an amazing time. Hey, look, Sage, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate how generous you've been. Wish you the best for the year, and, and please enjoy your run today.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it. I'm glad I got to see Ali real quick there. So yeah, keep up the great work, and good luck with your running too.
Thanks, man. I need to tell you a quick story.
Oh, I'm keen.
So I have a very good friend, and he was kind of like my gateway drug into ultramarathon running because I paced him at Tarawera one time. His name's Tago Marapara, and he's 1 day younger than me.
Is he?
Like, yeah, I'm March 9th, he's March 10th. And like, people are like, oh, you twins. And obviously the joke is he's Nigerian, and I'm not Nigerian, but incredible dude, like multi-talented, ultra-marathon runner, PhD, like just, I think he's playing the saxophone now. Like, he's a wonderful human being. Yeah. And so the year that there was the fire course, I paced Targo. And the next year we ran together, and it was the cyclone course. And we were coming up we were making our way up. I think we were making our way up Western Okataina. We got up Miller Road, and we were heading out towards the turnaround. And then we hear this voice booming out, and it's our old mate sitting back there, Kerry Suter, who's pacing Sage Canaday. And and at that point, like, we're kind of trudging, we're walking, we're running, and these two men were running down the hill, and I swear to God, it was like one of the most impressive things I've ever seen in my life, just their athletic ability, how fast they were running. Kerry was being very macho, he's being very alpha, and he's like, clear the way, lead runner coming through, blah, 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 and we're like, holy shit, dude, and we sort of hopped off the trail. As Sage passed us, and they would have been running, I would suggest they would have been running close to sub 4-minute Ks at that point.
Probably.
They were hauling ass. Sage was like, hey guys, are you having a good day? And we were like, yes sir, we are, as he shot past. Fast forward the next day, finished the race. I'm at the hotel picking up my headlamp, and who should be there at the same time but Sage Canaday. And he puts his arm around me, and I didn't say this during the interview, obviously, because I don't know, it would have been a bit weird. He puts his arm around me, and he's like, hey man, how was your race?
Oh,
And
that's so cool.
I said to him, no man, more importantly, how was your race? Because, you won the thing by like 19 minutes. And he was like, oh, it was good, but I really want to hear about your race. And we've got a photo which I'll put in the Instagram. But he's just all the shit he gets, right? Like, and he does cop a lot of shit. Out on the trails, like, what a guy! Like, what an ambassador.
I've heard that from lots of people that we coached before too. Like when they've been doing a race that he's been in, it's exactly that. Like just the true gentleman.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And actually, when Huge and I, the last time we worked together for Tarawera, so that wasn't this year, that was last year, when Rebecca was running the 50K,
yes,
we went out to Blue Lake. We started the 21K out because we were working, obviously. So we did the 100K and then we went back and we did something else. And then we did the 100-mile start and then we came back for the 21. Eugene was a bit broken then, so he was doing laps of the lake. He was swimming and I was running around the middle of it, running around the track. And you see Dan Jones coming past and who should come running down the trail but Sage Canaday. He doesn't know who I am, and he is saying hello to every single runner that is coming past.
Yeah.
And I just think it's a real sort of, it's ambassadorship for our sport, and to see him after all these years, doing that is incredible. So if for nothing else, well done, sir, and may you keep on.
Yeah, a great role model for us all, hey?
Absolutely. Just say hi, you dickheads. It's not that it's
not asking for much.
It's not 9/11. It's fitness. You're not going to war. Anyway, Dirt Church Radio is me, Matt Raymond.
Me, Ali Pottinger.
And our old mate, Andrew McDowell. We're on all the podcast platforms, so like, follow, and give us a rating. It helps. We're on social media at Dirt Church Radio. Email at dirtchurchradio@gmail.com.
Now, don't forget to sign up to our Substack for a weekly newsletter and aid station podcasts. Remember to write in with your greatest run ever. We'd love to hear from you, and you can read them on the website too. And thanks to our supporters, Further Faster, That's It, Squadron, and our Substack subscribers in the DCR aid station crew. Stay tuned for our show in 2 weeks when we have another great guest lined up.
I cannot believe who you guys are talking to this week.
Pretty exciting.
Holy moly, it's pretty exciting. Anyway, mā te wā, and remember, it's fitness, not war. You dickhead.